Every dominant force the world has ever known began with hesitation, with trembling hands, with uncertainty cloaked in courage. Thomas Edison wasn't born with the light. He created it after failing over 1,000 times. Not because he was certain it would work, but because he refused to stop. Walt Disney wasn't handed an empire. He was fired for lacking imagination. Imagine that. A man the world now credits with limitless creativity was once told he wasn't creative enough. But he didn't internalize it. He transmuted it. That's what the dominant do. They take rejection and use it as ignition. They take insult and turn it into insight. They take doubt and dominate it. But domination doesn't happen in a moment, it's a lifestyle. It's how you do one thing, and then everything. You can't compartmentalize greatness. You can't be lazy in one corner of your life and expect to be legendary in another. The man who cuts corners at home will cut corners in business. The man who lies to himself will never speak truth into the world, so you align. You tighten every bolt. You raise every standard. You become dangerously consistent, and that consistency, over days, weeks, years, rewires you, because at first, you'll still feel like the old you pretending to be the new you. But over time, the pretending fades. And what remains is real. The new you is not a costume. It's a code, a new system of operating. The world will try to remind you who you used to be. It will whisper your old name, your old mistakes, your old doubts. But you are not obligated to answer to the old version of you. That version expired the moment you decided to build instead of wish. You are no longer available for mediocrity, not in your thoughts, not in your habits, not in your associations. Because let me tell you something most men never learn: your environment is not neutral. It's either pulling you forward or holding you back. It's either sharpening your vision or smothering your fire. Cut the noise, distance yourself from those who mock ambition, who treat greatness like a fantasy, who belittle dreams because they buried their own. You owe no one your presence at the cost of your potential. This step, this ruthless self-honesty, is where dominance sharpens, and as you walk this path, people will misunderstand you. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're obsessed. They'll say you're too intense. Good, let them talk. You were not born to be understood. You were born to become undeniable, and here's the truth most avoid: dominance doesn't always look like victory. Sometimes, it looks like showing up broken and building anyway. Sometimes, it looks like failing publicly, learning fast, and rising silently. It's not clean. It's not perfect, but it's unrelenting, because when your standard is excellence, and your pace is consistency, the world cannot ignore you forever. Eventually, they'll ask how you did it, and the answer will be simple: step by step, with blood in your teeth and purpose in your chest, with scars on your back and vision in your eyes, with no guarantees, no shortcuts, and no apologies. That is the path. There is no blueprint carved in stone. No divine scroll handed down that tells you which move is perfect. But there is a compass within you, and it does not lie. It's your instinct, your burning desire, the whisper that gets louder every time you move in its direction. Ignore it, and your life becomes static, numb, predictable. Follow it, and it will break you first, before it builds you into something unstoppable. Because make no mistake, this path demands your entire self. Not fragments. Not weekend effort. Not inspiration without execution. It requires everything. But in exchange, it gives you something few ever taste: the ability to walk through fire without burning. That is dominance, but to rise to that level, you must first make peace with the storm. Stop waiting for life to feel comfortable. That's a myth sold by those who never built anything real. The path doesn't get easier. You get stronger, more precise, more composed, more powerful. You stop reacting. You start creating. You stop chasing quick wins. You start constructing a legacy, because dominance is not about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself in a world designed to distract, delay, and derail you. Control your time, or the world will waste it. Control your attention, or it will be auctioned off to the highest bidder. Control your thoughts, or they will spiral into prisons of doubt and indecision. The greatest men in history weren't just intelligent. They were focused, purpose-driven, immovable in the face of chaos. They understood something most people never learned: the battle isn't out there. It's in here, in your ability to endure when things go quiet, in your ability to choose discipline when no one's watching, in your ability to see abundance while walking through scarcity. That's the test. Not whether you can work when it's easy, but whether you refuse to quit when it's excruciating. And when you pass that test, when you rise instead of retreat, a strange thing happens: you begin to trust yourself, not just the surface-level confidence you show others, but real, grounded, unshakable self-trust. You stop outsourcing your worth, you stop needing applause, you stop seeking permission, and without saying a word, your presence starts to speak volumes. Because people feel it. The energy of a man who built himself, not from luck, not from inheritance, but from fire, step by step, breath by breath, through the doubts, through the darkness, through whatever you can't. And who do you think you are? Until one day, they look at you and say, "How did you become this?" And you'll smile. Because they didn't see the nights you didn't sleep, the days you didn't quit, the moments you wanted to break but chose to build. You'll smile. And keep moving, because you're not done yet. Dominance isn't a finish line, it's a way of life. And as long as you're still in the ring, you've got a shot, so take it, make the move, send the message, build the habit, risk the failure, risk the silence, risk being misunderstood, because in the end, history doesn't remember the critics, it remembers the builders, the relentless, the ones who looked out in the face and kept climbing, step by step, from hesitation to execution, from noise to focus, from doubt to dominance. And yes, dominance is a way of life, but not the kind forged in arrogance or noise. It is born in silence. In the hours no one sees. In the choices that don't go viral. In the rejection letters you never framed. In the battles you fought with your own reflection. That's where it begins. Dominance is quiet. It does not beg for attention. It commands respect because it has endured enough pain to no longer be fragile. You want to know who's truly dominant? Look for the man who doesn't flinch when things collapse. He rebuilds. Without asking why it happened. Without blaming. Without needing a round of applause, he rebuilds, because that's who he is. But to become that man, you must kill the version of you that is addicted to comfort. The part that waits for the right mood to take action. The part that needs a crowd to stay committed. That version, the one that seeks safety above growth, cannot come with you. Leave him behind. You don't owe your past self loyalty. You owe your future self discipline. So when the doubt creeps in, and it will, don't run. Don't medicate it with distractions or drown it in mindless scrolling. Stand there. Feel it. Let it gnaw at your chest. Let it scream. And when it's done, do the thing anyway, because that is how dominance is built. Not by silencing the doubt, but by acting in spite of it. Every time you move forward in fear, you collect proof that you can. Proof that the chains aren't real, proof that the stories you told yourself were just that, stories, and brick by brick, that proof becomes a foundation. You don't wake up with confidence. You earn it. You forge it. Through the doing. Through the late nights and early mornings. Through the choices no one claps for. You want to become dominant? Start here, wake up on your terms, not the world's. Set a vision so clear it haunts you if you ignore it. Build habits so precise they run without thought. Speak truth even when it shakes your voice. Learn every day like your life depends on it, because it does. And cut off every excuse at the knees. Excuses are the language of a man who hasn't decided. They are poetry written by the part of you that wants to stay small, but there is a louder voice within you. And it does not beg. It declares, I will rise. I will outlast this. I will dominate not because it's easy, but because I was built for it. And when you say that enough, not out loud, but in the marrow of your being, the world begins to shift. Doors open. Opportunities appear. Not because they weren't there before, but because you finally became the version of you who could see them. Success is not hidden, it's filtered, and the filter is you. The filter is you, your mind. Your perspective. Your willingness to see pain not as punishment, but as preparation. That's what separates the dominant from the defeated, meaning. They don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" They ask, "What is this teaching me?" Do you understand the difference? One mindset sinks, the other climbs. Every moment, life is throwing bricks at you. Bricks of failure. Bricks of betrayal. Bricks of fear. Most people get hit and fall. But dominance. Dominance picks up those bricks and builds a fortress. You must become immune to the illusions that stop others. The illusion that failure means the end. The illusion that comfort is the goal. The illusion that you need more time. More money, more permission. You don't need more, you need less distraction. Less noise. Less emotional clutter. Less internal negotiation, because that voice inside you, the one whispering, "You're not ready, who are you to do this?" That voice dies the moment you stop giving it a microphone. You kill that voice by doing, and yes, it will scream louder at first. It always does. That's how you know you're close. That's how you know you're finally shaking the cage, but listen closely. Beyond the panic, beyond the doubt. There's a deeper voice, the one you've ignored for far too long. It's the voice that remembers who you were before the world told you who to be. The voice that was never afraid of pressure, because it was born in it. The voice that doesn't chase dominance to impress anyone, but because it's your natural state. That voice isn't asking for approval. It's demanding alignment with your vision. With your values. With the future you, and when you start living in alignment, everything changes, because suddenly, saying no becomes easier. You stop betraying yourself to be liked. You stop negotiating with mediocrity. You stop chasing validation from people who gave up on their own dreams years ago. You rise, not for applause, but because stillness is suffocation when your soul was built to move mountains. You rise because staying still, staying average, is a slow death you've tasted before and refuse to stomach again. You rise because domination isn't about titles or followers or recognition. It's about walking into any room and knowing, without needing to say a word, that you are ready, not because life is easy, but because you were forged in the fire of your own choices, tested by the weight of your own dreams, sharpened by the hours no one counted but you. So hear me when I say this: you are not here to blend in, you are not here to apologize for your greatness, you are not here to dim your light to make others comfortable. You are here, on this earth, at this time, to dominate, step by step, choice by choice, day by day, and it begins now. Dominance begins in the dark, before the applause. Before the money. Before the breakthroughs. It begins in silence, in the hours no one claps for. It begins in the decision to keep going when no one's watching, when no one believes, when every fiber of your body begs you to quit. That's where champions are sculpted, in the quiet war against your own weakness. You want success? Then stop trying to feel like it. You won't always feel motivated. You won't always feel inspired. But dominance doesn't wait for feelings, it commands them. It's not about hype. It's not about getting pumped. It's about command. Order. Discipline. Decisiveness. It's about dragging your doubt to the gym. Bringing your fear to the work table. Walking your uncertainty to the mirror and saying, "Watch me anyway." That's how you dominate, not with noise, but with presence, with the kind of quiet conviction that makes people uncomfortable because they know they can't fake it. The world notices when you stop hesitating. When you stop negotiating. When you stop asking for permission to live on fire, that's when momentum starts to chase you. And let me be clear, you are allowed to feel tired, you are allowed to fall, but you are not allowed to stay on the ground, not when greatness is pounding on the inside of your chest like a lion that's been caged for too long. Do you think Edison wasn't tired? Do you think Lincoln never doubted? Do you think Carnegie never failed? Every giant you admire has bled for their legacy. What made them dominant wasn't luck. It was refusal to die ordinary. Refusal to accept the default. Refusal to back down when life got heavier than expected. They became unstoppable because they chose to be, and so can you, but you must give up your addiction to comfort. Comfort is the slow poison that whispers, "You've done enough." Comfort is the siren that drags potential down with soft pillows and empty pleasures. You weren't built for comfort, you were built for conquest, and yes, the path is narrow, you will be misunderstood, you will be mocked, doubted, and judged by those who have surrendered their own hunger. Let them talk. While they criticize, you create. While they scroll, you build. While they sleep, you sharpen, and one day, when the gap is too wide to ignore, they'll wonder how you did it, but by then, you'll be too deep in your mission to look back, because you didn't come this far just to make it. You came to dominate, not people. Not titles. Not competition, but yourself. That's the only opponent worth crushing, the version of you that settles, that shrinks, that lives in fear of becoming more. When you dominate that, everything else bows. And once you crush the version of yourself that hesitated, you no longer compete with the world, you command it, not through arrogance. Through alignment, you begin to walk differently. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you're anchored in something deeper. You've shed the weight of approval. You've traded it for clarity. For presence. For power, because true dominance isn't noise. It's not ego. It's not flexing in front of people who are still asleep. It's waking up with a quiet fire in your chest that says, I will not leave this earth ordinary. Most people never get there. Not because they don't have the potential, but because they never endure the furnace that forges it. They break when the fire gets hot. They run back to safe when life starts testing their mettle, but not you, not anymore, because now you understand, life is not testing you to punish you. It's testing you to reveal you, to extract the version of you that's been buried beneath fear, doubt, and compromise. The world only respects the relentless. Look at Ford. He was ridiculed for dreaming of an engine that could run without horses. Experts laughed. Investors doubted. But he burned through every rejection with the belief that what he saw in his mind was real, even if no one else could see it yet. That's what dominance looks like, the refusal to let small minds shrink your vision. You think Carnegie waited for conditions to be perfect? You think Oprah didn't hear no 1,000 times before the world said yes? You think Steve Jobs cared what the market wanted when he built Apple? No, they all shared one trait, obsession, and you must get obsessed. Not with outcomes. Not with applause. But with the process of becoming unstoppable. You must become more committed to your evolution than you are to your excuses, because your doubt is counting on you to stay average. To stay predictable. To stay afraid, but your dominance, it's counting on you to rise anyway. So here's the truth, you don't attract success by chasing it. You attract it by becoming it. By embodying the type of discipline, clarity, and conviction that success recognizes. You think million-dollar opportunities land in the laps of people who wait. No, they land in the hands of those who are already ready, people who sharpen themselves in silence. Who outgrow their distractions. Who master their inner world so powerfully that their outer world has no choice but to follow. You must live as if your future is watching, because it is. Every decision you make echoes forward into the version of you you're building. So every moment, every hour, every breath is either a brick or a bomb. It's either building your legacy or blowing it apart. You don't have to be perfect, but you must be deliberate. Because dominance isn't an event. It's not one moment of glory. It's not a single success. It's a way of life, a way of showing up. A way of thinking. A way of bleeding into everything you touch with the intent to excel, and the more you live that way, the more life starts to reflect it back. Doors open. People notice. Energy shifts, because life mirrors your vibration, and when you vibrate at the level of purpose, presence, and power, success has no choice but to come find you. It all starts to bend in your favor when you stop bending to fear, because fear, doubt, hesitation, these are not real forces. They are shadows. They only seem powerful when you stand still. But the moment you move, they scatter. The moment you speak your truth, they go silent. The moment you commit to the path, they lose their grip. Understand this, dominance is not force. It is certainty, and certainty is not given, it is earned through the repetition of choosing growth over comfort, truth over illusion, and action over paralysis. Every great empire in history began not with an army, but with certainty, a vision so clear, so unwavering, that it burned through resistance like wildfire. That's how Alexander conquered nations, that's how Lincoln held a divided country together, that's how Elon Musk reshaped entire industries, not by doing what was easy, but by committing to what was necessary. So ask yourself, What do you know in your bones is necessary for your life? What do you feel tugging at you in the silence, whispering that this version of you isn't the final form? That's the voice of your future. That's the voice of your dominance calling you forward. You will never outrun that voice. You can numb it. You can distract yourself. You can bury it under obligations and opinions, but it will haunt you. Because it is you. The real you. The one who refuses to be forgotten. The one who wasn't born to survive, but to lead. And the moment you choose to follow that voice, your life will begin to change. Because everything you want is hiding behind one decision. The decision to start living like the person you were born to be, not the person the world told you to be, not the person who fits in, not the person who waits for permission, but the person who creates. Who builds. Who decides. Let go of the illusion that anyone else is coming to save you. They're not. No mentor, no partner, no investor, no lucky break can replace the fire that you must ignite. This path is lonely, but it is holy, because in solitude, you meet the real you, the disciplined you, the unbreakable you, the visionary you who sees decades ahead while others can't even see past Friday. You weren't born for average. You weren't wired for mediocrity. You're not here to simply pay bills and nod politely through life while your potential dies in silence. You're here to rise, to dominate, to build something so meaningful, so rare, that when people speak your name, they do so with reverence. And that begins now, not tomorrow, not when it's more convenient, not when you're more ready. Now, because every time you delay, you're feeding doubt. Every time you wait, you're strengthening fear. Every time you hide, you're reinforcing the lie that you're not enough, and you've always been. But dominance doesn't reward potential, it rewards proof, so prove it. Prove it in your morning routine. Prove it in the standards you set. Prove it in how you speak to yourself, how you move through the world, how you carry your name like a banner of purpose. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not the failures that tried to bury you. You are who you decide to become today. This is the metamorphosis, the moment you stop asking, "Can I?" and start declaring, "I will." The moment you stop negotiating with your goals and start executing them with ruthless precision, the moment you stop apologizing for your ambition and start weaponizing it. You were born for this, you've just forgotten. Let this be the day you remember. Let this be the hour you return to yourself, not the self shaped by doubt, but the one sculpted by intention. From this moment on, let every step you take echo with the force of someone who refuses to leave this life anything less than legendary. You were not built to be forgotten, you were built to dominate. You were built to dominate not just the world outside, but the war within, the war between the old you and the future you. Between the version that hides and the version that hunts. Between the voice that says stay safe and the one that screams break free. And here's the truth, most people never win that war. Not because they're weak, not because they're incapable, but because they stop swinging. They lay down their weapons of discipline, of vision, of relentless action, and they accept a life that was never meant for them. But not you, not anymore, because deep down, you know you were made for more. And that hunger? That's sacred. That's not a flaw, that's a flame. That's life itself trying to wake you up, and dominance, true dominance, isn't about crushing others. It's about becoming undeniable in your purpose. It's the unwavering gaze of someone who no longer seeks approval because they've already approved themselves. It's the posture of someone who walks into a room and doesn't look around to see who's watching because they already know they were built to lead. You've seen flashes of that power before. In the way you felt when you kept a promise to yourself. In the way your heart surged when you finally took action. In the silence after a hard decision, when clarity flooded in like light. That's who you really are. That's what happens when doubt dies and dominance is born. But dominance doesn't come from waiting. It comes from training, relentless, ruthless, daily training, not just in the gym, but in your mind. In your habits. In how you wake up. In how you speak. In what you tolerate. The elite don't tolerate weakness, especially not from themselves. They don't wait for the stars to align. They build the stars. They don't chase motivation, they forge momentum through sheer will. They decide how their life will unfold, and then they make it law through discipline. Discipline is the edge. It's the separator. It's what turns chaos into creation and pain into power. And if you don't own your discipline, you will be owned by distraction. This world is built to keep you asleep. To keep you scrolling, doubting, buying, comparing, delaying, because if you wake up, truly wake up, you become dangerous, you become unshakable, you become the type of person who can't be controlled by fear, by failure, or by the opinions of the herd. So wake up every single morning. Wake up and remember, this is your life. This is your fight. This is your future, and every second you spend doubting yourself is a second stolen from your destiny. There's no rewind. No reset. No redo, you get this moment. And then it's gone, so what are you going to do with it? Will you let doubt keep dictating your story? Or will you tear that story down and build something legendary? You don't need another book. Another podcast. Another pep talk. You need a decision, right now. Decide who you are, and then live so fully into that identity that the old you can't survive in your presence. Let mediocrity suffocate in your silence. Let your vision speak louder than your excuses. Let your actions scream who you are long before your words ever try to explain it. Because in this world, results whisper what the loudest mouths never could. You weren't put here to be noise, you were put here to be movement, a force, an unrelenting reminder that one person, with conviction, with clarity, and with commitment, can change everything. That's you, that's your power, that's what's waiting on the other side of doubt, dominance. Because deep down, you know you were made for more. And that hunger? That's sacred. That's not a flaw, that's a flame. They build the stars, they don't chase motivation, they forge momentum through sheer will, they decide how their life will unfold, and then they make it law through discipline. Discipline is the edge. It's the separator. It's what turns chaos into creation and pain into power, and if you don't own your discipline, you will be owned by distraction. This world is built to keep you asleep. To keep you scrolling, doubting, buying, comparing, delaying, because if you wake up, truly wake up, you become dangerous, you become unshakable, you become the type of person who can't be controlled by fear, by failure, or by the opinions of the herd. So wake up every single morning. Wake up and remember, this is your life. This is your fight. This is your future, and every second you spend doubting yourself is a second stolen from your destiny. There's no rewind. No reset. No redo, you get this moment. And then it's gone, so what are you going to do with it? Will you let doubt keep dictating your story? Or will you tear that story down and build something legendary? You don't need another book. Another podcast. Another pep talk. You need a decision, right now. Decide who you are, and then live so fully into that identity that the old you can't survive in your presence. Let mediocrity suffocate in your silence. Let your vision speak louder than your excuses. Let your actions scream who you were long before your words ever try to explain it. Because in this world, results whisper what the loudest mouths never could. You weren't put here to be noise, you were put here to be movement, a force, an unrelenting reminder that one person, with conviction, with clarity, and with commitment, can change everything. That's you, that's your power, that's what's waiting on the other side of doubt, dominance. Because deep down, you know you were made for more. And that hunger? That's sacred. That's not a flaw, that's a flame. Bleed in discipline. Bleed in sacrifice. Bleed in consistency when no one is watching, because what you build in the dark shines brighter than anything built in the spotlight. That's the formula. That's the truth they won't tell you on social media or in quick fix courses. You want to go from doubt to dominance, then get obsessed with becoming so disciplined, so unshakable, so undeniable, that the world has no choice but to bow to the power of your example, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you walked it, you lived it, you earned it, and no one can take from you what you become. There's a storm coming. One you create with your actions, with your standards, with your defiance of every limitation you were taught to accept. This is not motivation, this is initiation. You don't get to go back. Not after this. You've seen who you are underneath all the fear. You felt what it's like to move like the person you were meant to be. Now live there, breathe there, operate from that place until you look around and realize you didn't just change your life, you rebuilt it from the ashes of your excuses, step by step, strike by strike, until dominance is not something you chase, it's just who you are. Because dominance is not loud. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't come dressed in arrogance or flash, it is silent. Steady. Relentless. It is the quiet decision made at 4 a.m. that no one sees. It is the repetition of excellence when no one is keeping score. It is built, forged, and carved in solitude. And that's where most people walk away, because they confuse silence with failure. They confuse obscurity with insignificance. But the greats? The ones who ascend from doubt to dominance, they understand one thing: roots grow deep before trees touch the sky. You've been growing in the dark, building in silence, preparing for a moment you didn't even know was coming until now. And now that you know, there are no more excuses. No more waiting for the right time. No more blaming the past, the parents, the politics, the pain, because none of that can stop a soul that has made an internal decision to rise. You were never powerless, you were never lacking, you just hadn't yet remembered who you are. But now, there's no more forgetting. You've crossed the line. From the moment you declared war on mediocrity, from the second you chose action over comfort, you stepped into a different reality. And that version of you, the dominant one, the focused one, the master of your fate, is not some future fantasy. It's you, minus the lies, you, minus the delay. You, stripped of every excuse that kept you locked in a smaller story. You, as you were meant to be. But don't get it twisted, dominance is not the final victory. It is not a destination where you get to relax and stop moving. It is a way of life, a rhythm, a standard. It is waking up every day and asking yourself, did I do the hard thing? Did I keep my word to myself? Did I sharpen or soften? Because no one rises by accident. And no one stays on top by luck. It's built through obsession with growth, through reverence for progress, through the refusal to stay the same. You want your name to echo? Then build something that deserves to be remembered. Don't chase attention, command respect. Don't mimic the moves of others, master your own. Don't look for shortcuts, become the long road, because the long road is the one that holds the crown. It's the road that carves your character, tests your will, and separates the curious from the committed. And if you're still here, still locked in, still leaning forward when most would have quit, then understand this: you're no longer the doubter, you're no longer the one hoping for change, you are the change. And now it's time to move like it. Because now it's no longer about potential, it's about proof. The world doesn't reward what you could be. It rewards what you become, so become undeniable. Walk into every room like you built it. Not out of arrogance, but out of alignment, because when you've done the inner work, when you've bled in the shadows and silenced the inner critic, when you've torn down every false belief, brick by brick, and rebuilt yourself in truth, you don't beg for space. You own it, and you don't do it loudly, you do it with presence. With power. With precision. That's what dominance is. It's when your life becomes a reflection of discipline so strong it speaks without sound. It's when your habits have momentum, your purpose has teeth, and your vision burns hot enough to melt resistance. Understand this: doubt was never your enemy, it was your invitation. It was there to ask, how bad do you want it? It was the echo in the cave that demanded you scream louder, the storm that forced you to build shelter within, and the second you stopped fearing it, the second you learned to dance with it, you turned doubt into fuel. Now every whisper of uncertainty is just another spark, another reminder that your conviction is real. You don't eliminate doubt, you rise above it. You move with it, but never for it, and every step you've taken has trained you for this moment, to no longer be moved by feelings, but by standards, to no longer wait for confidence, but build it through repetition, to no longer beg life for a break, but break through life with unshakable belief. That's what happens when you commit to the process. When you stop chasing overnight wins and start building timeless foundations, because dominance isn't an act. It's a way of choosing focus over distraction, a way of saying no to the noise, the comfort, the cheap dopamine, the weak yes. A way of pouring your energy into the few things that actually move the needle and ruthlessly cutting the rest. And when you live like this, not once, not sometimes, but every single day, people will ask how you got so lucky, but you'll know, this wasn't luck. It was the result of thousands of unseen choices, the sacrifices no one clapped for, the standards no one understood, the vision no one else could see, but you refused to let go of, because dominance is not a reward. It's a response to every time life told you to sit down. And you stood anyway, to every time you fell. And got back up stronger, to every time the world doubted you. And you refused to doubt yourself. This is your time, this is your rise, you've walked through fire to be here, so don't shrink now, expand. You didn't come this far to play it safe, you came to take the throne. You came to make the silence shake, to speak not just with words, but with results, to build a life so aligned with your soul's blueprint that it echoes across generations, because deep down, you were never average, not in your mind. Not in your spirit. Not in your DNA. You were born to move mountains with your bare hands, but somewhere along the way, the world tried to convince you that mountains don't move. They lied. They forgot to tell you that the mountain was never outside of you. It was you. The weight, the resistance, the climb, it was all a reflection of what needed to be conquered within. And now you rise. Now you step into the arena not to fight for approval, but to fight for legacy, because you finally understand, life doesn't hand you the crown, you forge it, from discipline, from pain, from purpose. You forge it in the furnace of repetition, under the hammer of relentless effort, and you wear it not as a decoration, but as a reminder that no one was coming to save you, that you had to save yourself, with belief, with vision, with an unwavering refusal to stay where you started. You see, dominance isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering you. It's not about being better than anyone, it's about being better than the version of you who once settled, who once hesitated, who once doubted the fire in their own chest. That version of you is gone now, buried beneath the weight you lifted, replaced by a mind so focused, a spirit so alive, a will so unbreakable. It scares your old self, because you've seen the other side, you've tasted the fruit of sacrifice. You've stood on the edge of your own potential and said, more. And now, there is no going back. There is only forward, step by step. Strike by strike, with clarity, with conviction, with the kind of quiet inner warriorship that doesn't shout, but builds habits that compound, builds rituals that sharpen, builds a presence so fierce that people feel it before you even speak. You want to know the secret? Here it is. Dominance is the reward for those who outlast the doubt. It's the fruit harvested by those who planted seeds in silence, watered them with sweat, and never gave up when it looked like nothing was growing. You think the greats didn't feel what you feel. Edison failed 10,000 times and still believed. Lincoln lost more elections than he won before he changed history. Disney was told he lacked imagination. Ford was called insane for chasing mass production. But what separated them was not talent. It was faith, faith in what could not be seen yet, faith in the unseen architecture of their vision. They weren't special. They were relentless, and so are you. Now is the time to stop asking if you're ready. You're not supposed to feel ready, you're supposed to move anyway, because readiness is not a feeling. It's a decision, and you decide today. You decide to break the loop of almosts and maybes. You decide to become what you were always meant to be, unshakable, because that version of you? The one who dominates? Who lives, breathes, walks, and creates from fire. They're not waiting for permission, they're waiting for you to stop forgetting who you are. So remember, and rise. You rise, not by accident, but by design. Because the path from doubt to dominance is carved with deliberate steps, not luck. It is a journey lined with moments where you stare into the abyss of your fears and say, not today. Where every no becomes fuel for the next yes. Where every setback is just a shadow cast by the light of your relentless pursuit. Imagine Thomas Edison in his workshop, a man surrounded by darkness, wires, and failure after failure. He didn't just invent the light bulb, he embodied the principle that persistence transforms impossible into inevitable. Edison's brilliance was not in his inventions alone, but in his refusal to be defined by doubt. He mastered the art of relentless focus, a singular fixation on the outcome that he refused to compromise. Now, think of Abraham Lincoln, a man who was defeated by life more times than most dare to imagine. Yet, he did not fold under the weight of his failures. He leaned into adversity like a warrior. He understood that every failure was a lesson etched into the foundation of his eventual greatness. From doubt to dominance, step by step, failure by failure, victory by victory. This is the rhythm of transformation. This is the dance of those who dare to take the long, hard road. Because you don't reach dominance by sprinting toward a mirage, you get there by walking through fire, day after day, choice after choice. And it is this unyielding commitment to progress that separates the average from the extraordinary, from those who talk about dreams, and those who live them. So, when your mind screams that it's too hard, when your heart wavers under the weight of uncertainty, remember the giants who walked before you. They didn't see their mountains as obstacles, they saw them as invitations, invitations to rise, to create, to dominate the space they occupied, and so must you. This is your call. The call to step into the arena with armor forged from belief, clarity, and purpose, to become the person who turns doubt into power, who turns hesitation into action, who turns dreams into reality. There is no formula but the one you build, step by step, moment by moment. This is your time, your moment, your rise. From the very first step, the climb demands more than just desire, it demands unwavering resolve. Like Henry Ford, who, after multiple failed ventures, refused to let doubt define him. Ford's vision wasn't birthed in a moment of certainty, it was forged in countless moments of uncertainty where he chose persistence over surrender. Imagine the raw grit it took for him to revolutionize the automobile industry, transforming a horse-drawn society into a machine-powered one. That wasn't luck. That was dominance sculpted by endless steps forward. By embracing failure as a teacher rather than an executioner, you must embody this relentless spirit. Each day, approach your challenges not as insurmountable walls but as bricks in the fortress of your future. Each setback is simply a lesson wrapped in disguise, waiting for you to uncover its wisdom. Your mind will try to trick you, planting seeds of doubt, whispering that the summit is too far, the journey too tough. But remember Lincoln's words, always bear in mind that your own resolution to succeed is more important than any other one thing. Your resolution is your armor, your conviction is your sword, your focus is the path that cuts through the wilderness of uncertainty. So, take hold of your vision with iron hands. Visualize the person you want to become, the influence you wish to have, the legacy you intend to leave. Hold that vision so tightly that even when storms rage around you, your eyes remain fixed on the horizon. Discipline becomes your constant companion, not a punishment but a gift. Like Carnegie, who rose from poverty to the pinnacle of industry, discipline was the steady drumbeat beneath his symphony of success. It's the quiet, consistent actions, day in and day out, that create unstoppable momentum, but discipline without passion is hollow. Let your purpose light the fire within. Find that reason so compelling that the mere thought of giving up feels like betrayal. Action must follow belief. Ideas without action are ghosts, ephemeral, fading into the void. But action ignites transformation. It turns intangible dreams into tangible reality. Gratitude becomes the lens through which you see your journey, not just for the wins but for the lessons hidden in losses. Gratitude fuels resilience, allowing you to adapt, to learn, and to rise stronger every time when adversity strikes, and it will embrace it as the crucible where your strength is tested and refined. Like Disney, who faced bankruptcy and rejection before creating a timeless empire of imagination, resilience is the hallmark of true dominance. Keep learning, keep evolving, because stagnation is the enemy of greatness. Your path from doubt to dominance is not a straight line. It twists, turns, and sometimes feels like a maze. But every step forward, no matter how small, carries you closer to the summit.